Hi, John Blake here. This is what you do when you have to hand lay up a really curly beard on somebody, and you want the hair to be real curly. And this is a way of doing it to where you can have control over the hair, and you can have control over the ends, so that when you're putting the hair on, you're putting the ends on. You're not just taking a wad of curly hair and pressing it against their face and hoping that it looks okay. This way, you're actually putting it on like it's growing out. But to do that, first we've got to take some hair, and I'm going to get some yak hair here, and give it a permanent curl. I'm gonna use two strings to crepe it. You see, I go behind the first one there, behind it, and then I go on top and I go in front of it, and that'll lock that in. And then I go back and forth with the string. This is just like you'd make. People are familiar with crepe wool. Well, this is a crepe yak, and once I get it creped, I'm gonna I'm gonna put it in a pressure pot and make it permanent, so that we have a permanent crepe to the hair, and that'll give us our extra curly hair that we want. And so the process of creping is just taking the hair and going back and forth and in and out. And as I get to a short end there on the hair, I can grab another piece of hair and just lay it on top there, and and continue the creping till I get about 3 or 4 pieces of yak hair in there. It'll be about maybe a foot and a half long. So you can see I just go over and under. While I'm getting the new piece started, I'm holding it in place so that it doesn't pull out. And then just over the top, back through, underneath the bottom one, over the top, and then I just keep on doing that. The more you do it, you can start to build up a little bit of speed, and just get that yak hair all round up. There's already a little bit of curl to this yak hair, but I want this to be uh, extra curly. And so I'm taking one last piece here, and I'm gonna fold that in on top. There we go. Just put it over the top, bring it through. Sorry, creping is a little bit boring, but it's a really good tool to have. You can take human hair, you can take wool, you can take angora, you can take any kind of hair you want, and do a creping technique on it. Uh, uh, a lot of people refer to crepe wool as crepe hair, and because that's the most common one that we know. But crepe just means that it's wound back and forth between two strings. And there I just take it and tie the end off. Tie it nice and tight. And then just lift off the button on the other side where I've got it tied. And then I've got a piece of yacked crepe. You can see I used 3 pieces there to make a piece of the yak crepe. Now I just take a regular pressure pot. I'm going to put some water in there. Let's see how much water I put in. Not a lot, because I don't want to wait for it to boil all day, but enough to keep the hair covered. Alright, snap on the pressure pot and then turn it on high, and then we just wait. We wait for that pressure thing to start going, and once it starts going, then I just start timing it off. I'm gonna on dark yak hair like this, I just know from experience that I want it to go for about a minute and 45 to 2 minutes. So after that time goes by, take it off the heat and let the pressure off. Lift up the cap there and just let the pressure off. You got to let all the pressure off till you can open it up. Then I can take it out of that pot and just put it into a little bowl of cooler water so I can handle it. And then just squeeze it out a little bit. So now it's just it's just like you were working with crepe wool. I'm just undoing it now and taking the string. And as you can see, as I undo it, even though it's still wet, it's holding that crepe shape. It's now permed into a very a very curly shape. It's it's still not in a state where I can glue it to somebody's face, but I can at least scrape it. I'm gonna mix some human hair into it too. This is human hair that's already been pre-curled. I get this at his and hers, and it's already curled, and it comes in little worms in different colors. And I'm just gonna flatten that out with a flattening iron and set it over by my crimper there, which you can see in the top of the screen. Then I just take 4 or 5 of these worms. I've got them in a dark brown color and a white color as well. I'm just gonna straighten out a few of those. I'm straightening out one of the white ones because I'm gonna mix some of that into there together too. This at some point I'm gonna mix all the hair together so I have a mixture of human and yak hair that's all pretty curly. But see this by straightening it out with the iron there, that just makes it temporarily straight. Now I'm taking the hair that I creped and I'm running it through the crimper after it dries. I wait for it to dry. So this is actually hair that I creped this hair yesterday, so it's dry for now for today's demonstration. And then I crimp that, and that straightens it out enough to where I can manage it. I can blend it with other hair. I can put it in the hackle. I can do an application, and I can manage where the ends go, and I can have some control over my density and my direction. I'm also taking the human hair that I flattened out with the flattened iron and running that through the crimper as well. Now I'm taking that after I've crimped it. Now I'm gonna hackle it all out, and I'm gonna mix some of the yak hair into the colors that I want. So I can mix up a dark brown color and a gray color for the beard that I want to do today, and I can mix up some black and some brown and whatever colors that I've prepared. I can now hackle together and get a good blend. You see the way I'm using the hackle is I don't face the hackle straight on. I stand to the side so that one hand is going to the top of the hackle and the other hand is at the bottom of the hackle. I don't keep both ends at the hackle and just wave the hair at it. I put the hair into the hackle with both hands on both sides, and that's going to become more obvious when I start to blend the colors. But right now I'm just taking the hair that I've taken the yak hair and I've creped it and I've run it through the crimper, and I've taken the human hair and I've flat ironed that and ran it through the crimper. And now I'm just running it all through the hackle. I'm so far at this point I'm still just working on the yak here. But you can see how I use one hand on top of the hackle and the other hand on the bottom. I'm not doing it. And see, and to mix the colors, to mix the brown and the black colors, I I pull some and I leave some, and then I put it back in, and I pull some and I leave some. So instead of like pulling the hair through each time and putting a twist in it and pulling it through again to blend my hairs, it's more like shuffling cards. So I get the hair blended a lot faster than the traditional way of hackling hair. And so now I've got a blend of the yak hair. I've got a good blend of the of black and brown. See, some people when they do a curly beard, they'll just use like something called Afrotech and glue it right up to the person's face. And the problem with doing that is you don't really have control of the ends. You're just gluing it on the face mid strand, and that works. That can work okay for sideburns sometimes, but it's really it, it it it's really not going to be very successful for working around the chin and doing mustache work. Here I'm taking the white now and I'm hackling that out, and I'm gonna take some of that white and I'm gonna mix it with some of the darker hair to get a gray color. So I take a little bit of this dark hair now and just a little bit. I'm still just working with the yak hair here. So you can see how I've got some one hand on top and one hand on the bottom. You see how I pull some and leave some, and then pull some and I leave some. So one hand is holding on to it while the other hand is pulling some of the hair out, and then I just go up and down the hackle this way a few times, where I'm pulling it and leaving it, and this is going to be the fastest way of getting two very different colors mixed up evenly. You can see a couple of those little Afrotech worms at the top of the hackle there. And like I say, the Afrotech worms that I'm using in this video, I get those at His and Her also, if I haven't plugged them enough. Okay, I'm just finishing up getting the short pieces out, and I'm just going to do it one more time here just to get a nice even mix on the gray tone. So I set my gray aside there, and just got rid of the little ends there. Okay. Now I know I shot this video, but right now I have to take a second and try and figure out what I'm doing. It looks like I started hackling out the human hair. That I first took it. It looked like those little worms there that you see in front of the ball of string. Then I flat ironed it, and then I ran it through the crimper, and now I'm hackling it. And what I want to do is I want to mix some of the yak hair with the human hair, so I have a human and yak hair blend. And I'm just looking at them right now, and they're kind of different lengths. It's going to be hard to get a good mix with having them from different lengths, so I'm going to cut off some of the yak hair. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to use that for something else. I'm not throwing it away. But now I can take this yak hair and this human hair and do the same thing where I hold some and leave some, where I hold some and leave some. And in just a couple of rounds of doing that, I'm going to have a blend of yak and human hair. The yak is going to be, as you remember, what we did first is the yak is going to be uh, permed into a creped shape, and the human hair is permed into a tighter, like afro shape. And I'm mixing those two textures together. The human hair I like to mix in because of the manageability and and the softness of it doing for doing detail work. The yak work can be a little bit heavy for doing detail work, but the yak hair I like to be part of the blend because of its coarseness. Because beard hair is coarser than human hair is. Beard hair is larger diameter, so that's why uh, whenever you whenever you do uh, beard work, if you want it to be realistic, it's best to use yak hair. And you get a coarse look, you get a more realistic look, and it has a less fuzzy look to it. Now I'm hackling out some of the white human. And I'm mixing some of the I'm mixing some of the white human into the gray now, so that my gray hair that again I want it to be a similar length, just because that makes mixing it a lot easier. So now I'm mixing the gray creped yak hair with uh, the gray human Afro tech hair that's been straightened and crimped. I know I'm using phrases like crimped and creped. Crimped is the two rollers that I roll it through. That crimps the hair. Crepe is when you put the hair into two strings. But now I'm mixing together the human and yak hair, so I get a human and yak blend. This seems like an awful lot of prep for doing somebody's beard, but you do it a couple of times, it goes pretty fast. That's the glue I'm using. It's uh, something I think it's made by Walker. It's called Ultra Hold, and the only place I know to get that is John Blake's Wigs and Facial Hair. It's a good company. I'm cutting the hair at an angle. I'm sifting it, but you see now instead of just having a wad of curly hair that I'm pressing up onto somebody's face, I've actually got control of the ends. It's all been straightened out, so you're just going to have to imagine what it's going to look like when it's curly. But but at this point, I'm just going to apply this beard like I was applying uh, a straight beard. And what I'm going to do after it's all done is I'm going to get the whole beard all laid up, and I know this video is long, but I'm gonna show it all anyway. This chin area is just the part that takes a long time. See, I've started just above his Adam's apple and worked my way up to work my way up to the bottom of his chin there. And I'm leaving this pretty long because I want the goatee. Just for design wise, I thought it'd be fun to leave the goatee area plenty long so we could see the effect of all the curl action that's going to take place later on. I'm gonna give it away. What I'm gonna do later on is I'm gonna wet the beard with water. After I get everything laid up and trimmed up just the way I want it, I'm gonna wet it with just regular water. And the theory is that once it wets with regular water, all the curl that was originally permed into the hair from when I permed it in the pressure pot, and the other hair that I mixed into it from his and hers that was permed into a tighter coil, that's all going to all that curl is going to reactivate. I know I said that really fast, but that's actually the coolest part of the video, is that I take this hair that I straightened out, and then instead of trying to style it with irons or try and, you know, put some curl into it some other way, the only styling tool that I'm going to use is water, and the water is going to reactivate the curl. And just like someone who has curly hair and straightened it out and then goes out in the rain, what happens? All that straightening goes down the toilet. Looks like I want to stick that hair on a little faster than that glue wants to get dry. And you gotta let that glue dry just a little bit to let it get tacky. But then once it gets tacky, it it uh, it has a good adhesion, and it keeps it stacked for a while. Now you could use it. You could use other types of glue and get the same effect. You could glue the beard up with Prosaid. Um, you could glue it on with spirit gum. Uh, the reason I don't use spirit gum is because spirit gum is okay until it loses its hold, and then it needs to be reapplied. And Prosaid is okay, but it's not quite as strong as the Ultra Hold. The disadvantage with the things like Prosaid and Ultra Hold is that they stay tacky and that they stay sticky, and you get in dust storms, and sometimes that can stick. And I try to alleviate that problem by spraying the whole thing down with the matte sealer when I'm done, and trying to get take as much of that tackiness away with the matte sealer. That'll come after I've got it done. So you can see I'm just layering this up the way I would lay up a normal beard. Just like, you know, one square inch at a time around the chin. Yeah, getting around the chins is just an area where you just have to take your time. There's no fast way of doing laying up a chin. And Once I'm happy with the chin, I can start to work back on the jaw. And see, by straightening this hair out, again, you can see the control that I have over the ends, that I can make sure that it's the ends that are getting glued down where I want them to. So my first piece there is on the underneath part of his jaw. You can see that I'm cutting that shorter because I know that I'm going to want this part of the beard to be shorter. That's just a style choice that I've gone for. And if I cut the hair that I'm laying at a very severe angle, I can I can get the sideburn done all in one piece, and you can see there you go. I'm keeping the scissors parallel to I'm keeping it parallel to the model's face, so that when I cut it, it falls in layers. That saves me the time of having to to shingle up the sideburn. You know, lay a piece, then lay another piece, and lay another piece on top of that, and so forth. It just for the sideburn, just do that all at once. Now I'm going a little bit slower. I'm being careful to spread the hair out so I don't get it too heavy. I want it to keep it light and see-through, so I'm using my fingers and the blunt part of the scissor to keep it spread. Right here at the top, I can see that he's got his own natural beard pattern where it grows just a little bit heavier right there, so I'm going to make a little bit heavier spots right there and a little bit lighter everywhere else. He barely grows any hair at all on his jaw except for right in this point. Now see, that's another technique of keeping things very thin, is where you see that I held some of the hair down and pulled the rest of the bundle away. Sometimes I'll do that. And see how I'm keeping the scissors parallel again as I cut, so that when the hair is finished, it falls in layers. I don't get a chop mark like shingles on a roof or anything. I've gone into the top part of his neck there with a little bit of just short stubble pieces. I'm going there on the top of the sideburn, along the side of the sideburn, with a little bit of short stubble as well. That's where I take the hair between my thumb and my forefinger, and I just pull it back and forth until I get a little wad of hair in between my thumb and my forefinger, and then I can just drag it onto the glue and leave stubble. This is just a slightly different angle so you can see what I did on the other side. I'm doing the same thing on this side now too. I'm cutting it shorter there because I know that's the style that I'm going for. And now the sideburn, I'm just going to do that all in, I'll do that all in one piece. Just cut the hair. You can see I cut the hair at a severe enough angle that I can just lay that up now and drag that. Drag that a little bit. Come down. cut the hair with the scissors parallel to his face there. And I got the sideburn. I'm going to fill it in just a little bit there, but it pretty much got the sideburn done all in with in one section. Now you can see I've got between my finger and my thumb, I've got just a few little short hairs. That's what I did with that yak hair that I cut off earlier. Is I went and cut it into shorter pieces, and I can just gradually lay that on there at the top of the sideburn to blend it in. And now I'm just laying in the light see-through pieces on his cheek. And lay a heavier spot right there, just because that's just what he has naturally. And I'm going in now with those small short hairs in between my two fingers, and I'm going in and I'm putting in, basically laying in stubble along his below his jawline. Okay, now comes the fun part. This is the part we all waited for. Here's where I take the beard. I've got it trimmed up to where I pretty much like it. I got the long goatee like I wanted. I've got it short on the sides, and I'm spraying it with some water. And then I use my fingers and my thumb, and I kind of mush the hair around a little bit to mush the water in, and just press it in. It's a little tough on Kwame here. He's a little bit like he's having a wet sweater pressed onto his face, but he's being very brave. This takes a couple minutes to work, but as we watch the rest of the video, you'll see how the hairs has curled up and it's gone to its natural permed state by activating it with the water. Now, different people with curly beards have different amount of curl in their beard, and you can control that by how tight a crepe that you make, how permed the hair is before you wet it. If you need to straighten it out some, it's totally possible to go in and straighten it out some with an iron at this point. But by controlling the perm of the hair, you can control just how curly you're going to make it, because you should decide just, well, how curly is this beard going to be, because everybody's beard is different. Everybody's beard has its own individual curliness to it. And the mustache, I'm just going to lay up with the same hair, but I'm not going to wet it, because I like the texture that it is already. Because most guys that have a beard that's pretty curly, their mustache isn't quite as curly as the rest of their beard, and I just kind of like the texture that I got here from just taking the permed hair and crimping it. So I'm just working my way on with little vertical sections, working my way from the outside in. and I'll start and do the same thing on the other side. I'm just using the blunt part of my scissors just to press that hair in and then trim. I'm coming back and refining the trim just a little bit more with an electric trimmer. And I've got this matte spray. It's made by Bluebird. I'm going to dilute that with a little bit of alcohol, and then I'm just going to go in to any areas that I see that are shiny or any areas that are thin where I can see glue coming through, and just this helps set the beard, and it also helps get rid of the glue shine. Kwame's moving his face around now just to show that he's got full range of movement in there. There's our beard for a curly person.